All right, thanks for joining us today for this quick look at Hydra Stomper from the Disney Plus set. He is number 40 from that set. What we're going to do here is we're going to break down what he does and give a real quick example of how it plays on the battlefield. We'll take a look at his stats and all the good things that he brings to the team. All right, he is coming in with the Howlin' Commandos, Shield, Stark Industries, Armor, Past, and Soldier keywords. So some of those have some pretty good team builds you can do with them. He has one trait, one special attack power, and he is a giant size, if you notice. He also has the Shield team ability, which gives adjacent friendly characters modify range +1. You could also give him a power action to choose an adjacent friendly character. Once this turn, that the chosen character modifies its damage +1 when making a ranged attack. All right, but let's take a look at his trait. He has Rogers Inbound. Oh, and his real name is Steve Rogers also. So when Hydra Stomper is KO'd, you may generate a Disney Plus collector number 002 Skinny Steve Rogers from your sideline on click number 1 in the square he last occupied. Protected Pulse Wave. But what we're going to look at in more detail today is his special attack power, which is Quake. When Hydra Stomper uses it, he may also target all characters that he moved through this turn. Just as a reminder, here's what Quake says. So Quake has knockback, and it also has when this character makes a close attack, they may target all adjacent opposing characters. If one or more characters were targeted, each hit character is dealt 2 damage instead of normal damage. Now, Hydra Stomper is a giant size character, and here's what giant size says for giant reach. When this character makes a close attack, instead of choosing an adjacent character or characters if able for targets, you may use improved targeted hindering and target characters within X squares and line of fire. For giants, X is equal to 2. So when he uses Quake, he can target characters within 2 squares and line of fire. Since he is a giant, he can see over regular and small sized characters. Then, what he has that combined with, let's take a look at the back of his card. You'll see here that he has a 6 range, 2 targets. And remember, you can use those 2 lightning bolt targets with close attacks also. But the combination of powers he has here on his first 5 of 7 clicks, he has Charge. He has that special attack power that we just looked at, which was Quake, but can also target characters he moved through. 18 defense with Impervious, and a 3 damage with Exploit Weakness. When he uses Quake, that damage is going to become 2, but Exploit is in effect. And as a reminder, here's what Exploit Weakness says. When this character makes a close attack, which he'll be doing with Quake, damage is penetrating. So the 2 damage from Quake then becomes 2 penetrating damage. Okay, now the great thing here is he's only 75 points, which means you are not investing a lot into this one figure, but his 10 movement charge becomes a 5 before any perplexes or other things you can do to increase that charge range. And the people he moves through also becomes targets. And he has giant reach 2 when he does that Quake. So there's a lot of people he can target with the Charge Quake exploit combination. And now let's take a look at an example of that in actual gameplay. Okay, let's take a look at this Hydra Stomper in game scenario. So this map, if you can't see from the current angle, it has elevation in all these squares up here where the brush is at. Okay, this is elevation 2 that Hydra Stomper's on. We have Baron Strucker and some Hydra agents and recruits down here on elevation 1. Now currently with that Giant Reach 2, he can see, he could punch people 2 away from him. But what we're going to use is that Charge, Quake, Exploit combination. So without any modifiers, he has a 10 movement, so that would be replaced with 5 when he uses Charge. And he's a giant. Currently he's on a different elevation, so he's not adjacent to anybody for breakaway. If he were adjacent, he would get a +1 if only breaking away from smaller characters, and would be an automatic breakaway if those characters were 2 sizes smaller, which is not the case between a giant and a normal size character. So he can move 5 and then Quake Exploit. So we would take this path. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you can't see this square, but it's a higher elevation again, so he's going to be up here on elevation 2. And then he can Quake. With Giant Reach 2, he could see with a close attack this figure, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Because of his special attack power, he also gets to target these 2 characters that he moved through. So he would be quaking everybody here. If he hits, he would deal them each 2 penetrating damage. Another thing to note while we're looking at this, a character like Baron Strucker usually would have some kind of mastermind. This character has mastermind. So usually if you hit Baron Sucker, he could mastermind and make another character become the target. Here's what mastermind says though. When this character would be hit by an opponent's attack that deals damage, you may choose an adjacent friendly character that would not be hit by this attack and that is less points or shares a keyword. That friendly character instead becomes a hit target of the attack, even if it's already a target or would be an illegal target. So in this type of scenario where you're quaking everybody that's around the mastermind person, if any of these people are hit, Strucker could not mastermind onto the hit characters. Now, if by chance you missed one of the people that are next to him but hit him, he could mastermind onto that character that was not hit. Okay, let's take a look at a couple other things that are pretty cool with this Hydra Stomper. First of all, if you do any type of perplexes or other team builds around him that can increase his movement value. So remember, it's replace, then modify. So if you perplex or anything else on that can increase his movement, the sequence is he would activate Charge, which means you would replace the 10 movement with a 5, and then you would modify it. So if you get 3 perplexes into that, it would be 5 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 for an 8 movement charge. So he can move through a bunch of opponents' characters and then do his Quake. So you have a lot of chances to be able to move through a bunch of different characters and get a bunch of targets for his Quake exploit. The other thing to note is even though he is a giant, he's a single base giant. So that 5 charge might not seem like much at first, but you can always use telekinesis on a single base character. Telekinesis doesn't care about size, just about base. So if you build around this 75 point figure with some TK, you could then TK him 6 squares, then he could charge to get through more of your opponent's team. So for 75 points, I think it's a great investment. It has a lot of damage potential with penetrating damage and only 75 points. The dial has reducers. Like a lot of figures though, it is susceptible to outwit. If he does get hit onto his last 2 clicks. He's ending with run-in shot, 17 defense, 9 attack, 4 damage with ranged combat expert, which would move this up to a 10 attack and 5 damage. So pretty solid throughout the dial. All right, thanks for watching today. Hopefully the video gave you an idea of how devastating Hydra Stomper can be. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and if you have any team builds that you're going to try out with this guy. Thanks for watching.
Check it out. If you dig what we do, go ahead and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.